My younger sibling, Adam, walked in on me during a private moment, but surprisingly, neither of us seemed too bothered by it. It all started on a peaceful Tuesday evening. The house was unusually quiet, as our parents had gone out, leaving just the two of us. When we were kids, Adam was always the playful one, finding creative ways to annoy me. But as we grew older, we got along better, and the house felt more peaceful. I had returned home from college for the fall break and hadn't been back in months. As soon as I stepped inside, a wave of nostalgia hit me. My old room was mostly the same, though the posters on the walls were faded, and the desk was cluttered with items my parents had stored there. It felt like stepping back in time, and I missed the familiar sights and sounds of home. Adam had changed since I last saw him. He was taller, more confident, and hardly resembled the awkward kid I remembered. It was like seeing a stranger, yet this stranger felt oddly familiar. When he noticed me staring, he asked what was wrong. I replied with a shake of my head. Nothing. You just look different. He smiled and scratched the back of his neck, saying, "It's called growing up, Jennifer. You should try it sometime." I rolled my eyes but couldn't help smiling. He had a way of making everything seem lighthearted, as if nothing was ever too serious. Yet, there was something more about him that I couldn't quite pinpoint. That night, after dinner and hours of catching up, I retired to my room. The day had been long, filled with travel, unpacking, and the emotional weight of returning home after so long. I just wanted a shower and a good night's sleep. My old bed creaked as I lay down, the mattress sagging in familiar spots. The house was quiet, except for the occasional sound of Adam moving around in his room down the hall. I closed my eyes, letting the familiarity of home wash over me. But sleep wouldn't come. My mind wandered, and I realized it had been a long time since I'd experienced any intimacy. College life was hectic, with more work than socializing, and I hadn't spoken to anyone in months. Lying there in the darkness, the reality weighed on me. I shuffled under the covers, my body restless, my thoughts straying in unexpected directions. Then, without warning, my thoughts turned to Adam. I remembered him standing in the kitchen earlier that night, the way his shirt clung to his chest, the ease of his smile and the warmth of his hug. I had dismissed it at the time, but now in the solitude of my room, those memories came flooding back, sharper and more real. What was wrong with me? This was Adam, my younger brother. I shouldn't be thinking about him this way. But the more I tried to ignore the thoughts, the stronger they grew. My pulse raced as I recalled how he looked at me when I teased him, his eyes gleaming with mischief. I imagined his voice, low and playful, whispering my name. He had transformed more than just his appearance. He now had a presence about him that made it impossible to ignore him. As my thoughts continued to spin, I bit my lip and felt my body heat up. My fingers hesitantly slid under the blanket, but I quickly allowed myself to melt into the experience. I closed my eyes, letting my imagination take over, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt alive. But it didn't take long. I was entirely immersed in my own world when the door to my room flung open. Adam's voice broke through the silence, and my heart stopped in my chest. He stood in the doorway, his hands still on the doorknob, his gaze wide as he took in the surroundings. My face flushed as I realized how vulnerable I was. My hands still under the cover, my breathing labored. I scrambled to sit up, wrapping the blanket around myself as if it would hide what he had just seen. "What the hell, Adam?" I yelled, my voice louder than intended. "Ever heard of knocking?" "I had no idea," he stammered, his face turning scarlet as he looked away, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly. "I was just wondering if you wanted to watch a movie or something." "Clearly I'm busy," I said, my voice trembling with humiliation. "It's late, Adam. Go to bed." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. He muttered something about seeing me and stared at my sheets, his tone halfway between amused and shocked. I met his gaze briefly before looking away. "Okay, I'll leave you to it," he said, turning to leave. But before he could close the door, I cried out, "Wait." I wasn't sure why I said that. Maybe it was the panic or the tension in the air between us. Whatever it was, the word slipped out before I could stop it. Adam paused, his hand on the doorknob, and looked back at me. his expression unreadable, his cheeks still red. I hesitated, my mind racing for something to say, some way to salvage the situation. But the truth was, I didn't want him to leave just yet. "I'm sorry," he offered softly. "I didn't mean to yell." I gave a slight nod, my eyes meeting his briefly before darting away again. "It's okay," he murmured, his voice softening. "I should have knocked." We stood there quietly, the tension between us thick and oppressive. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my face still flushed from humiliation, but there was something else going on that I couldn't quite pinpoint. "Do you want to come in?" I asked, the words rushing out before I could think them through. Adam raised his eyebrows, clearly surprised by the question. "Seriously?" he replied. "Yes," I said quickly, but my voice faltered. "I mean, you're already here." He hesitated for a moment before stepping inside and closing the door behind him. He leaned against the wall, his arms crossed, his gaze wary yet intrigued. "So," he asked after a moment, "what were you doing in here?" I groaned and pulled the blanket over my head as I felt my face heat up again. "Oh my God, can we not talk about it?" Adam chuckled, his voice low and warm, and for some reason it made my chest clench. "Okay, Jennifer, I'm just messing with you." I peeked out from behind the blanket and glared at him. "You're such a jerk." He smiled, his mischievous smirk making my pulse skip a beat. "Yes, but you love me anyway." I didn't say anything, but he wasn't wrong. With Adam in the room, the air felt thicker and smaller. He was still leaning comfortably against the wall, arms crossed and smiling teasingly, making it difficult to breathe. I wasn't sure if he was genuinely amused or just trying to lighten the situation, but it wasn't working. My heart was still hammering from the humiliation of being caught, and I couldn't look him in the eyes for more than a second before wanting to hide under the blanket and disappear. "Jennifer?" Adam remarked, his voice lower now. "It's not like I haven't walked in on worse." I gave him a doubtful glance, trying to regain some control. "What's the worst thing about seeing your sister?" He shrugged, his smirk growing wider. "Oh, I don't know. I once walked in on Dad clipping his nose hair shirtless. That left a scar." I couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't a loud laugh, more of a startled chuckle, but it helped to relieve some of the stress. Adam grinned, clearly pleased with himself. And for a moment, things felt normal again, like we were just two siblings hanging out with no awkwardness or unspoken tension. But the feeling didn't last. The silence that followed was heavy, and I could feel his gaze on me, watching me too closely. It made my skin prickle, as if he could see right through me, past the embarrassment and into the thoughts I was desperately trying to ignore. I wrapped the blanket tightly around myself as if it could protect me from whatever was going on between us. "Who are you thinking about?" Adam asked, his tone purposefully casual. My head snapped up and I focused on him, my face flaming. "No one. I wasn't—" "What kind of question is that?" He shrugged again, his face infuriatingly calm. "I'm just saying you should look into it. It must have happened for a reason." I threw a pillow at him, but he caught it easily and laughed. "Could you please stop?" I groaned, running my hand through my hair. Okay, he said, raising his hands in fake surrender, still chuckling. But his smile faded and his expression changed, becoming more serious. "I'm only kidding, Jennifer. You don't have to freak out." I groaned and ran my hand through my hair. "Okay, maybe don't come into my room unannounced next time." He nodded, and neither of us spoke for a moment. The silence dragged on, and I found myself staring at him, seeing how the faint light from my bedside lamp accentuated the contour of his jaw and how his hair fell slightly into his eyes. He had always been a good-looking kid, but now he appeared different, older, and more confident. It seemed strange, like I was seeing him for the first time. "Why are you staring at me like that?" Adam's voice interrupted my thoughts, and I realized too late that I had been staring. "I wasn't," I began, but he raised an eyebrow and cut me off. "Yes, you were." I groaned and pulled the blanket over my head again. "Just go away, Adam." "Nope, not until you explain what's going on." "There's nothing going on," I yelled, my voice muffled by the blanket. But even as I spoke, I knew it wasn't true. There was something going on that I didn't understand, that I couldn't even begin to put into words. And the way he was looking at me now, as if he could see right through me, wasn't helping. Adam approached and perched on the edge of the bed. I felt the mattress sag with his weight, and my heart skipped. I looked out from under the cover, and he was right there, his face only inches from mine, his expression enigmatic, his eyes searching mine as if he was trying to figure something out. "You're acting weird," he said gently. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I muttered, but my tone lacked conviction. "Jennifer?" he urged softly but firmly. "Come on, talk to me." I paused, my chest constricting. I didn't know how to express how I felt without seeming strange. How could I tell him that I couldn't stop thinking about him, that he had been on my mind all night, and that even now, sitting so close, he was all I could think about? "It's just that—" I trailed off, swallowing hard. "It's been a strange night." Adam tilted his head and studied me. "Strange how?" I couldn't respond. The words wouldn't come. Instead, I turned away, my gaze fixed on the blanket bunched on my lap, hoping he would drop it. But he didn't. He remained exactly where he was, waiting, his presence impossible to ignore. "Jennifer," he continued again, his voice gentle this time. "You can talk to me." His tone smashed through the wall I had been trying to construct. It wasn't taunting or judgmental. It was sincere, filled with concern, as if he truly cared, which made it even more difficult to keep everything bottled up. "I'm not sure what's wrong with me," I stated, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm thinking about you in ways I shouldn't be," I confessed. The words hung in the air between us, making my stomach twist. I couldn't believe I had spoken it aloud. I braced myself for his reaction, expecting him to back away, laugh it off, or become upset. But he did none of those things. Instead, he remained exactly where he was, his expression unreadable. "What kind of thoughts?" he inquired quietly, seeming unsurprised when I told him this. I hesitated, my throat tight. "Things I shouldn't have," I repeated, my gaze locked on the blanket. "I'm not sure why. It just happened." Adam was silent for quite some time, and I could feel my chest constricting with each passing second. But much to my amazement, he reached out, his palm resting softly on my arm. The touch was mild, almost timid, yet it sent a thrill through me. "Jennifer?" he murmured quietly, his voice steady. "It's fine." I looked up at him, my heart racing. "It is." He nodded, his hand resting on my arm. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and full of significance. "Yeah, it's okay." Adam's voice was steady and calm, but the weight of what he'd just said made my chest tighten. I wasn't sure if I'd heard him right, if he really meant it, or if he was just trying to ease the awkwardness between us. But the way he looked at me, so steady and sure, made me think he wasn't just saying it to make me feel better. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence was thick but not uncomfortable. It was like we were both waiting for the other to make the next move, to say something that would break the tension or push things forward. "Adam," I started, my voice shaky. "I don't know what's wrong with me." He tilted his head slightly, his gaze never leaving mine. "What do you think something's wrong with you because this isn't normal?" I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "You're my little brother. You're my family. I shouldn't—" He interrupted, his voice firm but gentle, his hand moving from my arm to my shoulder, squeezing lightly. Don't do that. Don't make it sound like you're broken or something. You're not—" I blinked, caught off guard by his words. "I'm not some kind of freak," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just feeling something, and that's okay." "Is it?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Because it doesn't feel okay." "Does it?" he countered, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're beating yourself up over something. Something you can't control, and honestly, I don't think you should." I stared at him, my heart pounding. The way he was looking at me, the way he spoke, it was like he wasn't just trying to comfort me. There was something else, something deeper. I didn't know what it was, but it made my chest ache in a way I couldn't explain. "Are you freaking out about this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You should be freaking out." He gave a small shrug, his lips quirking into a faint smile. "Maybe I'm just better at keeping my cool than you are." "Adam, Jennifer," he said, cutting me off again. "Do you trust me?" The question took me by surprise. "Of course I trust you." "Then trust me when I say this doesn't have to be a big deal," he said softly. "It's just us. No one else has to know. No one else has to understand. It's just you and me." His words sent a shiver through me, and I felt my chest tighten. The way he said it, so calm and sure, made it sound so simple. But it wasn't simple. It was complicated and messy and terrifying. And yet, the way he was looking at me, the way his hand rested on my shoulder, made it feel like maybe it didn't have to be. "Adam," I said, my voice barely audible. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't care if it's normal or not," he replied, his voice steady. "I care about you, Jennifer. And if this is something you're feeling, then maybe I feel it too." My breath caught in my throat, and I stared at him, my mind racing. Did he really mean that? Was he really saying what I thought he was saying? I didn't know how to respond, didn't know what to do. All I knew was that my heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. Before I could stop myself, I reached out, my hand brushing against his. He didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers curled around mine, his touch warm and steady. The simple gesture sent a wave of relief and something deeper, something I didn't want to name, washing over me. "I don't know what to do," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I don't even know what this is." "Me neither," he said, his voice soft. "But maybe we don't have to know. Maybe we just figure it out together." His words made my chest ache, and I felt my eyes sting. I didn't know why I was so emotional, why his words hit me so hard, but they did. I nodded slowly, squeezing his hand. For a moment, neither of us moved. We just sat there, our hands clasped, the silence between us filled with unspoken understanding. It was like the world had faded away, leaving just the two of us caught in this moment that felt both impossible and inevitable. And then, before I could overthink it, I leaned in. The kiss was soft, hesitant, like we were both testing the waters. His lips were warm, and I could feel the faint tremor in his hand as he held mine. It wasn't perfect. There was a clumsiness to it, a nervousness that came from the uncertainty of what we were doing. But it was real. It was us. When we pulled back, his eyes met mine, and I saw the same mix of emotions I was feeling. Fear, hope, and something that felt a lot like relief. Neither of us said anything, but we didn't need to. In that moment, everything we couldn't put into words was written in the way we looked at each other. Adam gave me a small smile, his hand still holding mine. "It wasn't so scary," I laughed softly, the sound shaky but genuine. "Speak for yourself." He grinned. And for the first time all night, I felt like maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. The room felt electric after that kiss, like the air between us had changed in some irreversible way. My heart was still racing, my mind struggling to catch up with what had just happened. Adam was quiet, his gaze steady as he watched me. And for the first time in a long time, I couldn't read him. He wasn't laughing, teasing, or brushing it off. He was just there, present in a way that made my chest ache. "Did that feel wrong to you?" he asked softly, breaking the silence. I shook my head, my voice caught in my throat. "No, but—" "It didn't," he said, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Because it didn't feel wrong to me either." I exhaled shakily, the weight of his words settling over me. I'd spent so much time convincing myself that these feelings were unnatural, something to be ashamed of. But hearing him say that, Hearing him validate what I was feeling made it all seem a little less terrifying. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Adam shrugged, his smile fading into something softer, more vulnerable. "I don't know. I've never done this before, Jennifer. But I think we just take it one step at a time and figure it out as we go." His words were simple, but they carried so much weight. I nodded slowly, my fingers remaining linked with his. "Okay." The silence stretched between us again, but it wasn't heavy this time. It felt reassuring, as if we were finally on the same page, letting go of all the unspoken tension that had built up for so long. "Would you like to talk about it?" Adam inquired after a minute, his tone gentle. "Talk about what?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "About why you've been acting strangely lately," he said, his lips quirking into a faint smile. "Because let's be honest, Jennifer, you've been weird." I groaned, pulling my hand away from his to cover my face. "Oh no," I admitted, my voice muffled. "It's just, everything about you feels different now, and it's messing with my head." "Different how?" he asked, leaning in slightly. I hesitated, my cheeks burning. "You're not the same annoying kid I grew up with," I said finally. "You're confident, grown up, and I don't know how to handle that." Adam's smile widened, a hint of mischief returning to his expression. "So, what you're saying is you think I'm hot?" "Oh my God, stop," I groaned, throwing a pillow at him. He caught it easily, laughing, and the sound made my chest tighten in a way that was both comforting and infuriating. He slowly leaned into me and kissed me again. For a short moment. "I'm just saying," he teased, tossing the pillow back onto the bed. "You could have just said that instead of making it all dramatic." "Yeah, well, I'm not exactly thrilled about it," I muttered, though my lips twitched into a reluctant smile. I felt like we were playing around with each other while also teasing. Adam's laughter faded, and his expression softened. "You don't have to be ashamed, Jennifer," he said quietly. "It's just us. No one else has to know," he said while joining my sheet. The way he said it was so calm and sure made my chest ache. I nodded, my throat tight. "Yes," I said softly, "just us." And while I said it, he now laid next to me and he had seen everything without saying a word. He moved his fingers towards the spot and continued with where I was left at. It was amazing. I had never felt something like this before. While he was busy, I lost control and asked him to go even further, and so he did. I'm not going to jump into details, but let's just say it was one of the craziest nights of my life. When he was done and we both laid down, I could feel that we both realized what had just happened. In some way, I felt wrong, but in another way, it felt like the best thing I have ever felt. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Something had shifted between us. The tension was still there, but it wasn't as heavy. It was like we'd taken the first step into something new, something uncertain, and now we were just trying to figure out how to navigate it. Adam stayed in my room for a while, sitting on the edge of the bed as we talked about everything and nothing. It felt like old times, back when we were kids and used to stay up late whispering secrets to each other in the dark. But now there was an undercurrent of something else. Something deeper. Something neither of us fully understood. When he finally left to go to his own room, I felt both relieved and strangely empty. I lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling, my mind racing with thoughts of him. The way he'd kissed me, the way his hand had felt in mine, the way he looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. It was all so overwhelming, but it was also impossible to ignore. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. For a moment, I thought it was our parents, but then I remembered they were out for the weekend. It was just me and Adam. I got out of bed and headed downstairs, my heart racing at the thought of seeing him again. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. Awkwardness, maybe, or tension. But when I walked into the kitchen and saw him sitting at the table with a bowl of cereal, he looked completely normal. Too normal. "Morning," he said, flashing me a grin. "Sleep well?" Yeah," I said, grabbing a mug and pouring myself some coffee. "You?" "Like a baby," he said, his tone light. But when I sat down across from him, I caught the way his eyes lingered on me just a little too long, the way his smile softened slightly. It made my chest tighten all over again. We ate breakfast in relative silence, the occasional clink of spoons against bowls filling the air. I could feel him watching me, though, and it made it hard to focus on anything else. My mind kept replaying the events of the night before. The kiss, the way he'd said, "Just us." "Jennifer," Adam said suddenly, breaking the silence. I looked up, my heart skipping a beat at the seriousness in his tone. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said quickly, though my voice wavered. "Why wouldn't I be?" He tilted his head, studying me. "Because last night was a lot, and I just want to make sure you're not freaking out." "I'm fine," I said, though my cheeks burned. "Really?" He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. "If you say so." The remainder of the day went smoothly, but the tension between us remained, seething just beneath the surface. Every glance, every inadvertent touch of hands felt electric, as if we were both waiting for something to happen. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was coming. And when it arrived, I wasn't prepared. As the day progressed, the air between us became heavier, with every small encounter fraught with unsaid anxiety. I could feel it every time Adam looked at me or spoke, even when we were sitting calmly in the same room. It was as if a storm was brewing on the horizon, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it burst. That evening, the house was quiet again. Our parents had called to say they'd be staying at Grandma's for another night, leaving me and Adam alone. He had gone up to his room after supper, leaving me to sit on the couch with the TV on quietly in the background. I tried to concentrate on the TV, but my mind kept wandering, revisiting the events of the night before. The way he kissed me, the way he looked at me afterward, as if I weren't just his sister, but something more. It was simultaneously horrifying and exhilarating. I was so deep in contemplation that I didn't hear him come back downstairs. When he sat down beside me, I jerked slightly, surprised by his unexpected presence. "Sorry," he admitted, his lips quirking into a little smile. "I didn't mean to scare you." "It's all right," I said quickly, even though my heart was racing. For a time, we just sat there, the TV casting a faint glow over the room. Adam said nothing, and neither did I, but the tension between us was evident. I could feel him observing me from the corner of his eye, which made my skin prickle. "Jennifer," he murmured abruptly, breaking the silence. "Can we talk?" I turned to face him, my chest clenching at the severity of his tone. "What about?" "Us," he said, his gaze fixed on mine. "About last night." My stomach flipped. I wasn't sure I was prepared for this conversation, but I nodded anyhow. "Okay." He paused and ran a hand through his hair. "I've been thinking about it all day," he said, "about what happened and what it means." "And?" I inquired, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't think I want to pretend that didn't happen," he said, his voice steady. "I don't think I want to pretend that didn't happen," he said, his voice steady. I blinked, my heart pounding as I glanced at him. "You don't?" He shook his head, his gaze catching mine. "No, Jennifer, because it didn't feel incorrect. It felt right." The way he said it made my chest ache. I opened my lips to answer, but no words emerged. I had no idea what to say or how to express everything I was feeling. All I knew was that he was staring at me as if I were the only thing that mattered, which made me want to cry. "I am afraid," I eventually revealed to Adam, my voice wavering. "This is all very new to me, and I'm not sure what to do." "You don't need to know," he murmured softly. "We'll work this out together." He reached out his hand to brush against mine, and the simple touch sent shivers down my spine. I looked down at our hands and then up at him. My throat tightened, and I whispered, "Are you sure about this?" My voice was hardly audible. "I've never felt more certain about anything," he replied, his voice steady. "I care about you, Jennifer, more than I probably should, but I'm done trying to ignore it." His words hit me like a wave, and before I could stop myself, I leaned in, closing the distance between us. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, but it quickly deepened as all the emotions I'd been holding back came rushing to the surface. His hands moved to my shoulders, pulling me closer, and I felt my heart swell with something I couldn't name. When we finally pulled back, as we lay side by side on the couch, the TV still playing softly in the background, I understood something. What we had was not normal. It was not something anybody else could comprehend. But it was ours, and for the time being, that was enough. I realize my tale may sound strange to some people, but I'm glad I can share it in some way. I feel horrible about what I did. Should I share my thoughts in the comments?